You see, when we talk about avoidant attachment, there's this common misconception that they don't feel deeply, that they're cold, distant, or incapable of real romance. But here's the truth. Avoidants experience love just as intensely as anyone else. They just express it differently. And if you're paying attention, you'll notice it in the subtleties, in the quiet ways they show up for you when nobody else is watching. Love from an avoidant isn't always loud or dramatic. It's often hidden beneath layers of self-protection, beneath routines and habits that might seem indifferent on the surface. But the moment you start looking closely, you begin to see the fingerprints of their affection everywhere. Think about those times when they remember the tiniest details about you, your favorite coffee, the book you mentioned once, or a story from your childhood that nobody else would recall. These aren't random acts of attention, they are intentional. It's their way of saying, without saying, you matter to me. I notice you, I see you. For someone with avoidant tendencies, noticing, remembering, and acting on these small things is a massive emotional investment. It's their language of love. And the key is to recognize these gestures not as casual or surface level, but as a mirror of their inner world, a window into the depth of their feelings that they rarely verbalize. And it doesn't stop at memory. Avoidants express care through subtle actions, things that might feel almost invisible if you're not attuned. Maybe they quietly check in to see how your day went, even when they're busy or preoccupied. Maybe they send a message not full of grand declarations, but enough to remind you that you're in their thoughts. These acts aren't born from obligation. They're born from a genuine emotional pull toward you. It's a delicate balance. They want connection, but fear being overwhelmed by it. So their love manifests in these measured, intentional ways. And that's the beauty of it. Love that is intentional, even in quietness, is love that is profound. You may also notice moments when they prioritize your needs, sometimes even over their own comfort. It could be as simple as showing up when it's inconvenient or offering support when they have nothing to gain. Avoidants often struggle with vulnerability. So when they make themselves available, when they step into your life in ways that require courage and effort, they're revealing the depth of their emotional commitment. They're saying, even though it's not easy for me, you're worth it. You're worth stepping into discomfort for. That's a declaration of love that carries more weight than words can capture. Here's the deeper lesson. Love from an avoidant is a paradox. It is both subtle and seismic, quiet yet monumental. If you learn to recognize it, to value the nuances, you'll begin to see a pattern that reveals just how profoundly they feel. The gestures that seem small are actually massive. The silences are filled with meaning, and the attention they give, even if measured, is a testament to their emotional intensity. They are not absent. They are careful, deliberate, and deeply invested. And once you understand that, you start to see the real face of avoidant love. Not absent, not shallow, but deeply, unmistakably romantic. So the next time you catch yourself wondering if an avoidant cares, don't just look at what they say, look at what they do, the moments they remember, the small gestures, the silent attentions. These are the signals of a love that runs deep, a love that is choosing you again and again in ways that only a heart unaccustomed to vulnerability could truly express. Because in the world of love, sometimes the quietest voices are the ones that roar the loudest in the heart. And that, my friends, is how you know an avoidant doesn't just feel, it feels profoundly, intensely, and irrevocably. Now let's talk about vulnerability. For avoidants, this is not something that comes easily. Their natural instinct is to protect themselves, to create emotional distance, to keep their inner world private. It's not that they don't feel, but that feeling deeply has historically been risky. Perhaps in the past, showing their emotions led to disappointment, rejection, or being overwhelmed. So over time, they learn to contain themselves, to manage the intensity of their emotional life in a way that feels safe. And yet, when an avoidant begins to let their guard down with you, it's one of the clearest signs that they feel not just affection, but a deep romantic connection. Think about it. When someone who has trained themselves for years to avoid exposure suddenly opens up about their fears, their anxieties, their hopes, it's an act of extraordinary courage. It's a quiet but profound admission that they trust you with the very part of themselves they usually protect above all else. And trust me, this is not superficial trust. It's a willingness to be seen in a raw, authentic way without filters. It's their way of saying, you are safe. You are the person I can show my real self to. And that is love. These moments of vulnerability often come in subtle ways. It might be a confession of self-doubt, a sharing of a personal struggle, or a story that reveals a tender, sensitive part of their character. To an outsider, these might seem small, almost casual. But to an avoidant, these are seismic. Each reveal is a bridge, built carefully, connecting their inner world to yours. And the more bridges they build, the more you begin to understand the depth of their feelings. You start to see the contours of their love, not in grand gestures, but in the courage it takes to let down the walls they've held up for so long. What's fascinating is that vulnerability also acts as a signal of commitment. An avoidant doesn't give this lightly. It is intentional. By sharing themselves with you, they are not just communicating feelings. They are inviting you into a shared space of intimacy that they guard fiercely. And this is where the magic happens. You realize that the love they feel is not only emotional, but existential. They are saying, you are the person with whom I can be wholly myself. I am willing to risk discomfort, risk exposure, because what we have is worth it. That is romance at its deepest level. Not about declarations, not about fireworks, but about the quiet courage to be profoundly human with someone else. And here's the paradox. Vulnerability for an avoidant is not always consistent. Sometimes it appears and recedes, and that can be confusing, but each instance is meaningful. Each time they allow themselves to open even partially, it is proof that this air love is real, that it runs deep, and that it is uniquely tuned to you. The very act of risking discomfort, of letting someone in, is a romantic act that carries more weight than any verbal promise could. So the next time an avoidant shares their inner fears or talks about their hopes and insecurities, pay attention, honor it, appreciate it, recognize that what they are doing is far more than a conversation. It is a gift. It is an offering of themselves in the purest, most courageous way they know how. Because when an avoidant takes that step, they are saying, in the quiet, most powerful way possible, I love you deeply, and I trust you with the part of me I usually keep hidden. And that, my friends, is where true romantic love is revealed, not in what is shouted from the rooftops, but in the courage to be seen, in the willingness to be human, and in the quiet, unwavering trust that they place in you. Now, let's explore something that is often overlooked when it comes to avoidance: their willingness to step out of their comfort zones for the people they love. Avoidants are by nature cautious. They value their independence and their routines. They've built systems, boundaries, and habits that make life predictable and emotionally safe. But when an avoidant starts making intentional changes, adjusting schedules, compromising on habits, or taking risks that normally feel uncomfortable, it's not trivial. It's a clear signal that they feel deeply and romantically about you. Think about it in practical terms. Maybe they rearrange their time to spend moments with you that they wouldn't normally prioritize. Maybe they engage in activities they don't naturally enjoy just because it matters to you. These gestures might seem small on the surface, but psychologically, they are enormous. For an avoidant, comfort and control are not just preferences, they are shields. To willingly step outside of that sphere is to take an emotional risk, to say, I'm willing to challenge my own nature because you are worth it. That's love in action, not in words. There's a profound lesson here about the nature of love and risk. Love at its core requires some level of discomfort. It requires flexibility, adjustment, and courage. And for someone who is avoidant, every small adaptation is a declaration of emotional commitment. It is their way of proving that the relationship is not just an idea or a fleeting attraction. It is something that demands effort, intentionality, and presence. These actions reveal a deeper truth. When an avoidant loves, they are willing to change for you, not out of obligation, but because their connection to you matters more than their habitual need for distance. It's also important to notice the pattern. One-time gestures can be mistaken for politeness or convenience, but consistent willingness to stretch beyond comfort zones is a sign of a deep emotional investment. You'll see it in small ways, adjusting plans to celebrate a moment that is important to you, compromising when a disagreement arises, or showing up for you even when it requires effort they wouldn't normally expend. Each of these moments is a microcosm of love. They may seem subtle, but collectively, they reveal the landscape of their devotion. There's a philosophical dimension here as well. Consider the idea that growth often arises from challenge. Avoidants, who guard themselves against emotional exposure, are challenged every time they choose to act in the service of love. Every compromise, every step into discomfort is not just an external act, it's an internal act. It's an internal ebb, evolution. In giving you priority, they are also transforming their own capacity to love more fully, to be present more authentically, and to move beyond fear-driven patterns. Love, in this sense, is both a gift and a vehicle for personal growth, a testament to the power of connection to transform even the most self-protective hearts. And here's what makes it romantic. These acts are often done without expectation of recognition. They are intentional but quiet. An avoidant does not usually broadcast their sacrifices or announce their shifts in behavior. Instead, they show love through the reality of their presence, through the willingness to adjust and stretch, through the consistent proof that they are choosing the relationship over their habitual comfort. In a world where love is often measured by words or grand displays, this quiet commitment is profound. So the next time you notice an avoidant making an effort that seems beyond their usual patterns, recognize it for what it is, a declaration of love. Each adaptation, each willingness to step into discomfort is their way of saying, you are worth changing for. You are worth the risk. That is the language of romantic devotion, subtle yet undeniable, and it speaks louder than anything spoken aloud. Love is not always loud, but in the courage to step outside their comfort zone, an avoidance shows that their love is real, transformative, and enduring. Now let's talk about romantic gestures, the kind that avoidants give, but often in ways that are easy to miss if you're looking for the usual signals of love. The world tends to think that love has to be grand, flashy, or overt. Flowers, declarations, fireworks. But with avoidance, love is measured differently. Their romance is intentional, deliberate, and profoundly meaning.
Inchful, even if it isn't broadcasted to the world, it's in the thought behind the gesture, not the size of the gesture itself.
And that's what makes it so extraordinary. Consider this. An avoidant may not spontaneously send you a love letter every week, but when they do reach out with a carefully chosen message, it's charged with meaning. Maybe they sent a song that reminded them of you or a note that references something only the two of you share. These gestures are not accidental. They are coded messages, little invitations to step into the depth of their emotions. For an avoidant, revealing their feelings through actions rather than words is safer, yes, but it is also more authentic. It reflects a love that is considered precise and deeply personal. Romantic gestures for an avoidant are rarely about impressing others. They are about connecting with you. Perhaps they remember your favorite meal, plan a quiet evening that aligns perfectly with your preferences, or organize a moment that demonstrates they've been listening to you, really listening. What may appear simple or understated is actually a profound investment of attention, care, and energy. In psychology, we call this intentional attachment, the choice to communicate love through actions that carry meaning in the context of the relationship. For an avoidant, this intentionality is the very essence of romantic love. There's also a philosophical layer here. Avoidants often struggle with overt emotional expression because it can feel vulnerable. By channeling love into meaningful gestures instead, they are translating emotion into a form that feels safe, but no less potent. It's a demonstration of love that is both strategic and heartfelt, a subtle paradox. The gesture itself is a physical manifestation of the emotional world, a way of saying, without words, you matter deeply. I am thinking of you. I am thinking of you. I see you. And in a sense, these gestures are more telling than any spoken promise could be, because they are rooted in thoughtfulness and action, not performance or expectation. Another critical aspect to notice is the timing of these gestures. Avoidants often choose moments carefully, not randomly. They may show up in ways that support you when you need it most, even if they aren't entirely sure how to express themselves verbally. It could be a quiet check-in during a stressful day, or a small act of service that alleviates a burden for you. These moments are strategic expressions of love because avoidants understand intuitively that love isn't always about words. It's about creating an experience that communicates care, attention, and connection. And this is where the romance becomes undeniable. When an avoidant gives you these meaningful gestures, they are essentially saying, I am choosing to express my feelings in the ways that I can best sustain, protect, and honor them, and you. It's love that is thoughtful, disciplined, and profound. It may not always be dramatic, but it is deliberate, and that deliberation makes it powerful. The very effort it takes to translate feeling into action, especially for someone naturally reserved, is a testament to the depth of their emotion. So the next time an avoidant gives you a gift, plans a moment, or sends a message that seems carefully considered, pay attention. Pay attention. Appreciate it for what it is. A reflection of the inner life they are sharing with you. A declaration of love expressed in their most authentic and sustainable form. In the world of avoidant attachment, romantic gestures are not just acts, they are proof in living color of the depth of their love, because love that is measured, intentional, and deeply personal is not weaker. It is enduring, profound, and unmistakably real. Now let's examine the dimension of avoidant love that is both paradoxical and profoundly revealing. Emotional consistency amid distance. You see, avoidants have a natural tendency to pull back. It's part of their wiring. They crave independence. They guard their emotional space. And at times they seem distant, even disconnected. On the surface, this can be confusing. You might wonder, do they really care? Or is this love or just habit? But here's the truth. Love from an avoidant is often measured not by constant proximity or visible enthusiasm, but by a subtle, enduring undercurrent of presence. Even when they appear distant, their actions, small but deliberate, signal that they are emotionally invested in a deep and lasting way. Think about the avoidant who disappears for a period, perhaps to manage stress or recharge emotionally, and yet despite the distance they return. They make the effort to reconnect, to check in, to ensure you're supported. This is not random or casual. This is deliberate consistency. It's a silent promise that no matter the distance or challenges, their attachment to you remains intact. In psychological terms, this is a demonstration of emotional reliability, a proof that their love isn't dependent on constant presence, but on a deeper, more enduring connection that transcends everyday fluctuations. Another layer to this is the quality of their return. When an avoidant comes back, it is usually thoughtful, intentional, and measured. They don't return out of obligation. They return out of genuine care. They assess, they plan, they act in ways that sustain the emotional bond. This kind of consistency, though subtle, is more profound than any dramatic gesture could be. It reflects an internal rhythm of commitment, a loyalty that is expressed not through grand declarations, but through the steady, reliable heartbeat of actions that affirm your importance to them. Philosophically, this challenges our conventional notions of love. We often equate closeness with intensity, assuming that constant contact or overt expressions are the only markers of affection. But with an avoidant, love exists in a space that is quiet yet persistent. It's the understanding that distance does not mean absence, and that space does not equate to disinterest. This teaches us something vital about human attachment. Love is not always about the magnitude of the moment. It is about the consistency of the commitment, the willingness to remain connected even when it is uncomfortable or inconvenient. Consider the moments when they show up during critical times. Perhaps when you are struggling emotionally, when you need support, or when circumstances are particularly challenging. These are moments that matter. An avoidant who feels deep love will prioritize these moments, sometimes even at personal cost. They may not articulate it in emotional speeches, but the act itself communicates, I am here. I choose you, even when it is not easy, even when my instincts urge me to pull away. My care for you brings me back. That is loyalty, that is commitment, and that is the unmistakable language of love for someone who values both connection and autonomy. And here's the crucial insight. Consistency is the quiet but powerful signal of romantic love from an avoidant. It is the thread that binds the relationship through time and space, through absence and presence, through challenges and comfort. It is proof that beneath the protective layers, beneath the retreats and pauses, there's a heart fully invested, a love that endures, and a bond that is intentional and profound. So the next time an avoidance seems distant or withdraws temporarily, pay attention not just to what is missing, but to what returns. Look for the steady pulse of their care, the subtle gestures, the thoughtful reappearances. That is where their love lives, in the quiet, enduring, and unwavering commitment that says, without words, I am here for you, and my heart remains with you, and my heart remains with you. Because true love is not always loud, and sometimes the most profound devotion is measured not by presence alone, but by the constancy and reliability of a heart that chooses you again and again. Finally, let's look at one of the most telling indicators that an avoidant truly feels deep, romantic love. When they actively protect the relationship, this is subtle, but it's profound. Avoidants often guard themselves fiercely. And so naturally, they guard their emotional investments with equal vigilance. When they start prioritizing the relationship, not just for convenience, not just when it's easy, but actively defending it, nurturing it, and safeguarding it against outside pressures, it is one of the clearest signs that their love is not casual. It is deep, intentional, and enduring. Think about what this looks like in practice. Maybe they said, "Tee boundaries with others to ensure the connection between you remains strong." Perhaps they stand up for you when misunderstandings arise or confront situations that could undermine the trust between you. These are not acts that come naturally to someone who prefers independence. Every protective gesture is an active choice, a conscious effort to maintain and strengthen the bond. It is love expressed through loyalty and discernment, through vigilance and care. This is the avoidance way of saying, this matters. You matter. I will ensure that what we have is preserved. There's a deeper psychological truth here. Avoidants have historically learned that attachment can be risky. Love for them can be overwhelming, intrusive, or suffocating, but when they feel deeply, they take the responsibility to protect what is precious. They don't just love, they safeguard, and this act of protection is itself a powerful form of romantic expression. It reveals a heart that has weighed the risks of connection and consciously chosen the person before them over and over again, despite the natural instinct to retreat. Observe the moments when they make sacrifices to maintain harmony, when they step into uncomfortable conversations to prevent misunderstandings, or when they clarify miscommunications rather than letting distance grow. Each of these actions reflects a prioritization of the relationship above ego, above fear, above the habitual patterns that normally keep them apart. In this way, avoidants demonstrate that love is not just a feeling. It is a practice, a commitment, a set of actions that preserves intimacy while navigating the complexities of their own emotional landscape. Philosophically, this speaks to the essence of mature love. It is not just about passion or intensity. It is about stewardship. True love, especially for someone who tends to pull away, is about choosing consistently over time to invest in another person's well-being, in the bond, and in the shared journey. It is about honoring the connection even when it challenges their personal boundaries, even when vulnerability feels uncomfortable, even when independence tempts them to disengage. The very act of protection communicates the depth of their care more eloquently than words ever could. And here's what makes this uniquely romantic. When an avoidant protects the relationship, they are not doing it for recognition or reward. They are not seeking validation or reward. They are not seeking validation. They are acting from a place of genuine, enduring love. Each choice, each act of vigilance is a signal that they see a future with you, that they value what exists between you above temporary discomfort or fear. It is the ultimate expression of devotion because it requires courage, intentionality, and presence. the very things that avoidants guard most closely in themselves. So the next time you notice an avoidant setting boundaries, standing up for the relationship, or taking deliberate steps to protect what you share, understand the gravity of these actions. They are not trivial. They are declarations. They are proof of a love that is deep, romantic, and committed, a love that is as intentional as it is enduring. Because in the world of avoidant attachment, love is not always loud, it is not always overt, but when it is protected, nurtured, and defended, it becomes undeniable, unshakable, and profoundly real. And that, my friends, is how you know when an avoidance love is true. It is a love that chooses safeguard, reads, and endures, and endures.